Happy Monday, everyone. Today we are going to start with our first day of reviewing fractions. Today for our learning target, we have 3 definitions that we need to remember when we are working with fractions. The first word is fraction. This is a part of a whole. The next one is equal part. This is one section of a whole. And remember, equal means all of the parts are the same size. And the last definition we have is unit fraction. This is a name for the number of equal parts. Okay, the first one we have is we have a shape that has some unshaded and some shaded parts. We need to write the fraction. Remember, every time we write a fraction, we need to start with our fraction bar. And our bottom number is called the denominator. Remember, denominator down. How many equal parts? So we need to count our equal parts so we can figure out what our denominator is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have 4 equal parts, which tells us that our denominator is 4. Do you remember what we call 4 equal parts? It's fourths. Okay, now we need to write our numerator. And remember, our numerator represents the number of parts that are shaded. Okay, I want you to look. How many equal parts are shaded? Go ahead and say it with me. Ready? 1. So we know that the fraction of the shape that is shaded is 1/4. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We are going to, again, write a fraction that represents the shaded part of this figure. Step 1, start with our fraction bar. Step 2, figure out the denominator. Denominator down. How many equal parts? I have 1, 2, 3 equal parts. So I am going to write 3 down there for my denominator. And now I need to look and see how many shaded parts I have. I have 1, 2. So I know that the shaded part of this shape is 2/3. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, again, can you think what is the first step we need to do? Draw a fraction bar. Step 2, figure out our denominator. How many equal parts do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 equal parts. Now for our numerator, we need to figure out how many are shaded. Go ahead and count with me. Ready? 1, 2. So we know that 2/4 represents the shaded figure. Okay, let's do another one. Step 1, draw your fraction bar. Step 2, count all of the equal parts. This will give us our denominator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is our denominator. Remember, the parts of the whole that are shaded and unshaded both count towards our number of equal parts. Now our numerator will only be the number of shaded parts. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know that 5/8 of this shape is shaded. Remember, we can also figure out the fraction of the shape that is unshaded. Okay. Ooh, let's try and write the fraction of this shape that is shaded. Now, step 1, fraction bar. Step 2, number of equal parts. And remember from last time, we know that even if it's shaded, it still counts as an equal part. So we have 1, 2, 3 equal parts. But we also know that there are 3 equal parts that are shaded. So our fraction is 3/3, which also means that 1 whole is shaded. Okay, let's move on. Concept development. What part of the whole is shaded? What part of the whole is not shaded? Let's first write our fraction of the whole that is shaded. So step 1, fraction bar. Whoops. Step 1 is fraction bar. Step 2 is denominator down. how many equal parts. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Now I am going to go ahead and put 4 as my denominator here because we just learned a couple slides back that no matter if the equal part is shaded or unshaded, it still counts as an equal part. Okay, now what part of the whole is shaded? Well, I know that 1 equal part is shaded, so I know that 1/4 of the whole is shaded. Now we need to count the number of equal parts that are not shaded. We have 1, 2, 3. So we know that 3/4 of the shape is not shaded. Okay. We're going to move on to this one. If you have a piece of paper and a pencil with you, you can go ahead and try this one with me. What part of the whole is shaded? Step 1, fraction bar. Step 2, figure out our denominator. 1, 2, 3 equal parts means our denominator is 3. Now we need to know how many equal parts are shaded. Let's count. 1, 2. That means that 2/3 of our shape is shaded. Now let's do the number of parts that are not shaded. Fraction bar. We know that 3 is still our denominator. Now let's count the number of equal parts that are not shaded. 1. So we know that 1/3 is not shaded. Okay. Next, we are going to create a number bond of the shaded and unshaded parts. Well, for a number bond, we know that our top circle needs to represent the whole. Fraction bar. Now we need to know how many equal parts we have. 1, 2. And we know that we have 2 halves, which is also equal to 1 whole. I'm going to erase this and just put 1 whole right here. Now we need to create a number bond of the shaded and the unshaded parts. Let's start with shaded. We know that we have 2 equal parts, so that will be our denominator for both. But our numerator is going to represent the shaded. Whoops. Will represent the shaded. Well, we have 1 equal part that is shaded, and we have, for unshaded parts, we have 1 equal part that is unshaded. So we know that 1/2 is shaded and 1/2 is unshaded, and this gives us our 1 whole. Let's try it again. We know that we have 1 whole. Let's draw our fraction bars and figure out our denominator. How many equal parts do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 equal parts. Now we are going to start and figure out the fraction that is shaded. We have 1, 2, 3 equal parts shaded, so I know that 3/4 of this shape is shaded. And now we need to figure out our unshaded parts. How many equal parts are unshaded? Well, we have 1. So we know that 3/4 of this shape is shaded and 1/4 is unshaded. And this gives us our 1 whole. We can also write 1 as 4/4 because we know that we would need to shade in every equal part to get to 1 whole. Okay. Let's skip this one for now. Let's go on to this one. Again, we are going to create a number bond of the shaded and unshaded parts. Well, we know that we have 1 whole here, so I am going to write 1 whole. Let's start with our fraction bars. First, we're going to figure out the fraction of the shaded region. To do this, we need to figure out our denominator. Let's count our equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know that I have 7 equal parts, so my denominator is going to be 7. Now, let's go back and see how many are shaded for our first numerator. We have 1, 2. 2 are shaded. Well, now we need to count how many are unshaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we know that 2/7 plus 5/7 equals 7/7, which is also called 1 whole. Let's skip that one. Let's do this one. Again, we're going to create a number bond of the shaded and unshaded parts. We have 1 whole and our fraction bars. Let's figure out what our denominator is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 equal parts, which means our denominator will be 8. Let's figure out the number of shaded parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know that 5/8 of our shape is shaded. Now for unshaded, we know we have 1, 2, 3. There we go. We finished our number bond. Okay, let's skip that one. Let's look at this number bond that is partially filled out for us. We know that our total is going to be 3/3. We have 2/3. Now we need to figure out the missing piece. Let's draw a shape next to it to help us. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I know my denominator is 3, so I need 3 equal parts. Now, we know that we have 2/3. I'm going to shade 2 of my equal parts. Now, I'm going to draw my fraction bar, and I know that my number of equal parts is not going to change. We only have 1 equal part left, and so I know that my numerator is 1. This tells us that 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3. Okay, let's try this one. We have 6/6. This time, instead of drawing a picture, let's try doing it without it. We have part of the whole. We have 2/6. We know that the denominator must stay the same. Now I want you to think, what number plus 2 equals 6? Go ahead and think it. It is 4. So we know that 4/6 plus 2/6 equals 6/6. Okay, nice job. Let's skip that one for now. Okay, we have 7/7 and we have one part of our whole, which is 1/7. We know our denominator stays the same, which is 7. Now again, we need to think. What number plus 1 will give us 7? Think. It is 6. We know that 6/7 plus 1/7 equals 7/7. Okay, let's skip that. Oh, that was the last one. Let's do this one. Okay. We have 10/10. We have 6/10. Now let's figure out our missing piece. What is our denominator? I want you to think. Go ahead and say it out loud right now if you know. It is 10. We know our denominator stays the same. Now for our numerator, we need to figure out what number plus 6 will equal 10. Go ahead and think it. Say it. It is 4. We know this because 6 plus 4 equals 10. Okay, nice job, everyone. Go ahead and move on to the practice.